Vernal Conclave. I'm about to read this the whole time. Scythe Faraday. Rowan! These things are so funny looking. Dude, way to go.
Joshua's brother, Justin. I know that guy. I'm like not tech savvy and I'm really dumb. I forgot my book at school, so I have to read from my computer and look at the chat from my phone because I can't see it. I feel so confused. We have 1 minute until we have to start reading.
Coffee. Coffee.
Hi, Lauren.
Oh my God, it's Lauren.
See, Lauren, I would have known it was you because your name is in yours, but weird names like Addicted to Cars, definitely won't know who that is.
That's Steve.
So if I gave you one of those books, there's a spot for a code word, but I'm specifically not telling you what the code word is until almost the end because Sammy told me he was having a friend over and I felt like he would try to play me and come in and be like, hey, it's Sam, but then not really watch and just leave it running. So that's why I'm not telling you guys the code word till later. And then you can use this to like replace a 0. So like anything you have a 0 on, you can use watching this to like get a 100 instead, or if you're absent and you miss something and you're like, ugh, I don't feel like doing this 1-pager because I have like missing work for another class and need to work on stuff, then you can like use it to replace like whatever you skip one day. A code word, Emma, like did I give you one of those printouts when you were in Miss Kendall's class? If I did, there's like a spot on there that says the code word. Sit down. There's a spot that says oh, I thought I did. Sorry, Emma. Well, just write it down on a piece of paper. I'm giving you a special code word so I know that you watched the whole time and didn't play me and leave. My friend's not even here. That must be Sammy. See, I saw you added me, Sammy, but since it ends with GG, I thought it was Grace Gibson.
No,
but this is actually you.
Good game.
Oh, good game. I thought it was Grace Gibson.
Who's that? Where's he at?
I don't even know what it says. Use code LACE GG. And hi, Harley. Well, it's 12:01, so now we're late for reading. This is Jeremiah. He's going to read first. His reading voice doesn't sound as beautiful as mine does.
GG. Look how big my head looks compared to yours in this light.
That is slick. All right, Jeremiah, you can start reading. Oh, there's Grace Gibson, not Lace, use code GG. That is definitely Sammy, not Grace Gibson.
What?
So, like, maybe, like, halfway through, I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask you something so that I know you're listening to me and not just, like, watching TV in the background of this and you don't have me on mute.
No, for media.
Hello, Shavannah. See, look at all these easy names. Like, Harley I can see, Grace I know, and Savannah, and Lawrence.
Where's Harley at?
These other names, like Beach Bug. I would have known yours was Emma Bug. You remember I told you I feel like calling you Emma Bug sometimes? So I would have felt like Beach Bug was you.
Onion.
You're only here to help with views.
Onion
Thank
suck.
you. I'm so grateful.
1, 2, 3.
I'm doing this for free, so I guess the views technically don't matter. It's just to see how many kids I could coax into doing homework on the weekend with all my hip ways, Justin. Yeah, girl, Emma, I told you one day, I was like, I feel like calling you Emma Bug when I see you, and then you were like, oh, at church they called me Emma Bug. Or maybe it wasn't Emma Bug, but that's what I feel like. I also had this account years ago. Addicted to Cars, Justin. Jeremiah, start reading. So we're on chapter 13, Vernal Conclave. This is when Rowan and Citra are going to like the first big Scythe meeting. If it's like too echoey or something, let me know. We're like in the living room and the kitchen, and so it might sound weird. I should probably mute this. How do I mute this? Fix this.
Just turn your volume down.
Sorry guys, I don't know how to use anything in life. Ah, there. Okay.
Are you doing page, or how you want to do
Like, large paragraph.
Alright. Fulcrum City was a post-mortal metropolis toward the very center of mid-America. There, by the river, set low between the sky-soaring spires of graceful city living, was a venerable structure of stone, impressive if not in height, then in solidity. Marble columns and arches supported a great copper dome. It was an unyielding homage to ancient Greece and imperial Rome, the birthing grounds of civilization. It was still called the Capitol Building, for it was once a state capital back when there were still states, in those days before government became obsolete. Now it had the honor of holding the administrative offices of the Mid-American Scythe, as well as hosting its conclave 3 times a year. Keep going.
It was pouring rain the day of the Vernal Conclave. Citra rarely minded the rain. It's raining today, isn't that perfect? Citra rarely minded the rain, but a day of gloom coupled with a day of pure tension did not sit well with her. But then a bright sunny day would feel mocking. Citra realized there was no good day to be presented to an intimidating elegy of Scythes.
Fulcrum City was only an hour away by hypertrain, but of course, Scythe Faraday saw hypertrains as an unnecessary extravagance. Besides, I want scenery rather than a windowless subterranean tunnel. I'm a human being, not a mole.
Hold on real fast. That line he just read made me think of something. Let me ask you a question.
Oh my God.
You can just say yes or no.
Oh my God. Answer it truthfully.
Answer it honestly. And then I'll tell you the explanation later when we're reading. So I'm so sorry for pausing. I never do this like in real life class, but I just thought of this.
Hey, Joe.
Was the Underground Railroad, you know, like with Harriet Tubman and the slaves and freeing them and all that stuff, and was the Underground Railroad above ground as an escape system or below ground through tunnelings and such? Which one was it? I'll tell you the answer and the truth later. But was like the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman above ground or underground? I thought of it literally. I think it was above ground. Okay, Harley.
Harley!
We were arguing about this earlier with each other, and then we were asking, like, our friends who were grown-up adults above ground. Okay. Well, our grown-up friends are not having the above-ground answer.
Well, kids are smarter today.
Maybe above is wrong, guys. All of you guys are saying above. Don't you think that that might not actually be the answer? Under. Who said under? Sammy.
Good game.
Under. Lauren. Both because it went through a mountain. Who is I'm in danger? R. Woods. Who is R. Woods? Is that Reed? That must be Reed. Hi, I am Mason. Who's I'm in danger? Who said both because it went through a mountain? Jacob.
Went through a mountain.
We'll come back to this later. I just thought of it because, what did it just say? It said something about, what line did it say? Oh, subterranean tunnel. Yeah. And then I thought about this, and we were literally arguing about this today. I'll totally tell you.
Oh my God.
Later. Bingo. Okay, sorry. I just distracted you guys.
I'm back.
I'm a human being, not a mole. That's the last thing you read?
I got it. Okay.
A standard train took 6 hours, and Citra did enjoy the scenery along the way, although she spent most of the trip studying. Fulcrum City was on the Mississippi River. She recalled that there was once a giant silver arch in the riverbank, but it was gone now, destroyed back in the age of mortality by something called terrorism. She had never learned more about the city if she weren't so focused on the poison and weapons.
What city was it, guys? What was the arch?
We're asking so many questions, we're going to distract them. I thought I said mortality wrong. I always say morality.
Mortality?
And he looked at me, so I thought I said it wrong. They had arrived the evening before conclave and stayed in a downtown motel. Morning came much too quickly.
As Citra, Rowan, and Scythe Faraday walked from their hotel at the awful hour of 6:30 a.m., people in the streets ran to them and handed them umbrellas, choosing to get wet rather than to see a Scythe and his apprentices go without one.
Do they know you've taken 2 apprentices instead of just 1? Citra asked.
Of course they know, said Rowan. I'll put you going.
Yeah, that's still your line.
Sorry.
We're gonna kick him out of the video.
Oh, why wouldn't they? But Scythe Faraday's silence on the matter was a clear flag to Citra.
We'll look down here so it's not muffled.
Okay.
You did clear with the high blade, didn't you, Scythe Faraday?
I have found that with the Scythedom it is better to ask forgiveness than permission, he told him.
Citra gave Rowan an I told you so look, and he cocked his umbrella slightly so he didn't have to see it.
It will not be a problem, Faraday said, but he didn't sound very convincing.
Citra looked to Rowan again, who was no longer eclipsed by his umbrella. Am I the only one who's worried about that?
Rowan shrugged. We have immunity until Winter Conclave and it can't be revoked. Everyone knows that. What's the worst they could do?
I don't think Rowan sounds like
Rowan has an accent.
He thinks Rowan has an accent, and this has been an argument before, but
Rowan's got an
I don't think Rowan has an accent. Some Scythe arrived at the Capitol building on foot, as others had in public cars, some in private cars, and several in limousines. There were ropes to hold back spectators on either side of the wide marble staircase leading up to the building, as well as peace officers and members of the Blade Guard and the Scythedom's elite security force. The arriving Scythe were protected from their adoring public, even if the public was not protected from them.
I despise running the gauntlet, Scythe Faraday said, referring to climbing the steps to Conclave. It's even worse when it's not raining. The crowd on either side is a dozen people deep.
Now, it was only half of that. It never occurred to Citra that people would have come out to see Scythes arriving at Conclave, but then all celebrity events drew onlookers, so why not a gathering of Scythes?
Some of the arriving Scythes gave obligatory waves. Others played to the crowd, kissing babies and randomly granting immunity. Citra and Rowan followed Faraday's lead, which was to ignore the crowd completely.
There were dozens of other Scythes in the entry vestibule. They removed their raincoats to reveal robes of all colors and textures. It was a rainbow that summoned forth anything but thoughts of death. This, Citra realized, was intentional. Scythes wished to be seen as the many facets of light, not of darkness.
Through a grand arch lay a grander chamber beneath the central dome, a rotunda where hundreds of Scythes greeted one another, engaging in casual conversation around an elaborate breakfast spread in the center. Citra wondered what it was that Scythes talked about. The tools of gleaning, the weather, the chafing of their robes. It was intimidating enough to be in the presence of a single Scythe. To be surrounded by hundreds was enough to make one crumble.
Scythe Faraday leaned over and spoke to them in a hushed voice. See there? He pointed to a bald, heavily bearded man. How do you say this name, Jeremiah? Scythe Archimedes.
Archimedes? Yo.
Scythe Archimedes, one of the world's oldest living Scythes.
You know who Archimedes was?
He'll tell you he was there in the year of the Condor when the Scythedom was first formed, but it's a lie. He's not that old, and over there, he pointed to a woman with long silver hair and a pale lavender robe. That's Scythe Curie from the Gleaning Journals of H.S. Curie. That's her.
You see this little hater? Giselle, go to sleep! That's why they got a little worm.
Oh! You see Smellzell? That's my daughter's account because I'm using her phone and my boyfriend thought that my daughter said that he doesn't read good, but that was me, not my daughter. That's me, not Jibby.
She didn't brush her teeth today.
She probably didn't.
Talking trash.
Scythe Curie.
No, you didn't.
Citra gasped. That's the Grand Dame of Death? So they say.
Is it true she gleaned the last president before the Thunderhead was given control, Citra asked. And his cabinet, yes. He looked at her, perhaps a bit wistfully, Citra thought. Her actions were quite controversial back in the day. The woman caught them glancing her way and turned to them. Citra chilled when her piercing gray eyes zeroed in on her. The woman smiled at the three of them, nodded, and returned to her conversation.
There was a group of 4 or 5 Scythes closer to the assembly chamber entrance, the doors of which were still closed. They wore bright robes, studded with gems. The center of their attention was on a Scythe in royal blue, whose robe contained what appeared to be diamonds. He said something, and the others laughed a little too heartily for it to be anything
but sycophantic.
But I was about to say psychopathic. What's syntophantic?
Sicko.
Who's that?
Fantic.
Citra asked.
Where are we at? Oh, Scythe Faraday's expression took a turn towards sour. That, he said, not even trying to hide his distaste, is Scythe Goddard, and his company is best avoided.
Goddard? Isn't he the master of mass gleanings? Rowan asked. Faraday looked at him a bit concerned. Where did you hear that?
Rowan shrugged. I have a friend who's obsessed with that kind of stuff. And he hears things.
Citra gasped, realizing she had heard of Goddard not by name, just by deed. Or, more accurately, rumor, because there was never any official report. But like Rowan said, you hear things. Is he the one who gleaned an entire airplane?
Why? Asked Faraday, giving her a cold, accusing eye. Does that impress you?
Citra shook her head. No, the opposite. But she couldn't help but be a little dazzled by the way the man's robe caught the light. Everyone was, which must have been his intent.
And yet, his was not the most ostentatious robe on display. Moving through the crowd was a Scythe in a lavishly gilded robe. The man was so large, his robe seemed a bit like a golden tent.
Who's the fat guy? Citra asked.
It looks important, said Rowan.
Indeed, said Scythe Faraday. The fat guy, as you call him, is the High Blade, the most powerful man in the Mid-American Scythedom. He presides over Conclave.
The High Blade worked the crowd like a great gaseous planet, bending space around it. He could have tweaked his nanites to eliminate at least some of his girth, but clearly he had chosen not to. The choice was a bold statement, and his size made him an imposing figure. When he saw Faraday, he excused himself from his current conversation and made his way towards them.
Honorable Scythe Faraday, always a pleasure to see you. He used both hands to grip Faraday in what was meant to be a heartfelt greeting, but felt forced and artificial.
Citra, Rowan, I'd like you to meet High Blade Xenocrates, Faraday said, then turned back to the large man. These are my new apprentices.
He took a moment to appraise them. A double apprenticeship. I believe that's the first. Most Scythes have trouble with just one.
Okay. The better of the two shall receive my blessing for the ring. And the other, said the High Blade, I think that's how he sounds, will be sorely disappointed, I'm sure. Then he moved on to greet other Scythes that were just now coming in from the ring. See, Rowan said, I knew you were worried, but to Citra, nothing about the man seemed sincere.
Rowan was nervous. He just didn't want to admit it. He knew admitting it would make Citra more worried, which would make him more worried. So he bit back his fears and misgivings, and he kept his eyes and ears open, taking in everything that had happened around him. There were other apprentices there. He overheard two girls talking about how this was the big day. A boy and girl, both older than him, maybe 18 or 19, would be getting their rings today and becoming junior Scythes. The girl lamented about how, for the first 4 years, they would have to get approval from the selection committee for their gleanings. Every single one, she complained, like we're babies. At least the apprenticeship isn't 4 years long, Rowan interjected, as a way to get into the conversation. The two girls looked at him with mild disgust. I mean, it takes 4 years to get a college degree, right? Rowan knew he was just digging himself deeper, but he had already committed. At least it doesn't take that long to get a license to glean. Who the hell are you? The girl asked. Ignore him. He's just a spat. A what? Rowan had been called many things, but never that.
They both smirked at him. Don't you know anything, said the girl. Spat as in spatula. It's what they call new apprentices because you're not good for anything but flipping your Scythe's burgers. Rowan laughed at that, which just irritated them. Then Citra came up next to him. So if we're all spatulas, what does that make you? Safety scissors? Or are you just a couple of tools? The boy looked like he might slug Citra. Who's your mentor, Scythe? He asked. He should be told of this disrespect. I am, said Faraday, putting his hand on Citra's shoulder. And you don't warrant anyone's respect until after you receive your ring. Ooh, boy. The boy seemed to shrink by about 3 inches. Honorable Scythe Faraday, I'm sorry, I didn't know. The girl took a step away as if to distance herself from them. Best of luck today, he told them with a magnanimous gesture that they didn't deserve. Thank you, said the girl. But if I may say, luck plays no part. We've both trained long and have been taught well by our scythes. Very true, Faraday said. They nodded respectful goodbyes that bordered on bows and left. Nodded respectful goodbyes that bordered on bows and left.
After they were gone, Faraday turned to Rowan and Citra. The girl will get her ring today. The boy will be denied. How do you know? Asked Rowan. I have friends on the bejeweling committee. The boy is smart, but too quick to anger. It's a fatal flaw that cannot be tolerated. As annoying as Rowan found the kid, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity. What happens to the apprentice that gets denied? They are returned to their families to take up a life where they left off. But life can never be the same after a year of training with the scythe, Rowan pointed out. True. But only good can come from a keen understanding of what it takes to be a scythe. Rowan nodded, but thought, for a man of such wisdom, had seemed very naive. Scythe training was a scarring endeavor, purposely so, but it was scarring nonetheless.
The rotunda became increasingly crowded with scythes, and the marble walls, floor, and dome made voices echo into a cacophony? Oh, there we go. Rowan tried to hear more individual conversations, but they were lost in the din. Faraday had told them that the great bronze doors to the assembly room would open promptly at 7 a.m., and the scythes would be dismissed at the stroke of 7 p.m. Dang, they're there all day. 12 hours to accomplish any and all business. Anything left undone would have to wait for months until the next conclave. In the early days, Scythe Faraday told them, as the doors opened to admit the throng, a conclave would last for 3 days, but they discovered that after the first day it became little more than arguments and posturing. There's still plenty of that, but it's curtailed. It behooves us all to move through the agenda quickly. The chamber was a huge semicircle, with a large wooden rostrum at the front where the high blade sat, and slightly lower seats on either side of the conclave clerk, who kept records, and the parliamentarian, who interpreted rules and procedures if any questions arose. Scythe Faraday had told them enough about the power structure of the scythedom for Rowan to know that much. The first order of business, once everyone was settled, was the tolling of names, one by one, in particular order. The scythes came to the front to recite various names of people they had gleaned over the past 4 months. We can't recite them all, Scythe Faraday told them. With over 300 scythes, it would be more than 26,000 names. We are to choose 10, the ones we most remember, the ones who died most valiantly, the ones whose lives were the most notable. After each name spoken, an iron bell was rung, solemn and resonant. Rowan was pleased to hear Scythe Faraday reciting Cole Whitlock's name as one of his chosen 10. Ooh, you remember who Whitlock is?
Yeah, I remember Whitlock.
Y'all remember Whitlock? The tolling of the names got old very quickly for Citra. Even reduced to 10 names each. The recitation lasted for almost 2 hours. It was noble that the scythe saw fit to pay homage to the gleam, but if they only had 12 hours to complete 3 months' worth of business, she didn't see the sense of it. There was no written agenda, so there was no way for her and Rowan to know what came next, and Scythe Faraday only explained things as they happened. When is our test? Will we be taken somewhere else for it? Citra asked, but Faraday shushed her. After the tolling of names, the next order of business was the ceremonial washing of the hands. The scythes all rose and lined up before 2 basins, one on each side of the rostrum. Again, Citra didn't see the point. All this ritual, it's like something you'd see in a tone cult, she said when Faraday returned to his seat, hands still damp. Faraday leaned over to her and whispered, "Don't let any of the other scythes hear you say that. Do you feel clean after sticking your hands in water that 100 other hands have been in?" Faraday sighed. "It brings solace that binds us as a community. Do not belittle our traditions because one day they may be yours. Or not," goaded Rowan.
Citra shifted uncomfortably and grumbled. "Just seems like a waste of time." Faraday must have known her real gripe was not with not knowing when they would be presented to the conclave and taken away for their test. Citra was not a girl who could endure being in the dark for long. Perhaps that's why Faraday made sure she was. He was constantly poking at their weaknesses. Next, a number of scythes were singled out for showing bias in their gleanings. This held some interest for Citra and gave her some insight as to how it all worked behind the scenes. One scythe had gleaned too few wealthy people. She was reprimanded and assigned only to glean the rich between now and the next conclave. Another Scythe was found to have racial ratio issues. Racial. High on the Hispanic, low on the Afric. It's due to the demographics where I live. People have a higher percentage of Hispanic in their personal ratios. Highblade's knocker teeth was not sways. Then cast a wider net. Glean elsewhere.
Oh.
He was charged with bringing his ratios back into line of face, being disciplined, which consisted of having future gleanings pre-approved by the selection committee. Having one's freedom to glean taken away was a humiliation that no Scythe wanted. 16 Scythes were taken to task, 10 were warned, 6 were disciplined. The oddest situation was a Scythe who was far too pretty for his own good. He got called out for gleaning too many unattractive people. What an idea, one of the other Scythes shouted out. Imagine what a world it would be if we gleaned only ugly people. That brought a round of laughter from the rest of the room. The Scythe tried to defend himself, claiming the old adage, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but the Highblade wasn't buying it. This was apparently his third such offense, so he was given permanent probation. He could live as a Scythe, but he could not glean until the next reptilian year, the Highblade proclaimed. Do you want to read?
No, go ahead.
That's crazy. Citra commented, just loud enough for Rowan and Faraday to hear. No one knows what animals' future years will be named. I mean, the last reptilian year was a year of the gecko, and that was before I was born. Precisely, said Faraday with a little bit of guilty glee. Which means his punishment could end next year or never. Now he'll be spending his time lobbying in the office of the calendar to name a year after the skink or Gila monster or some other reptile that has not yet been used.
Gila monster.
Gila monster?
Yeah, it's not Gila. You know what a Gila monster is?
I don't know what a Gila monster is.
You have purple tongues?
This man knows how to say every freaking word. Anytime we read it, he's always like, you said that wrong. This is how you say it. See, it's just now Gila. I said Gila, but he said it's a Gila monster.
My stepdad has diabetes, and he takes Gila monster venom to curb his appetite. It's a medicine.
Huh.
Informative. Where was you at? The gecko? Before I was born?
Yes.
Precisely, said Faraday.
No. Before they moved.
Oh, you're right. Before they moved on from the disciplinary portion of the morning, there was one more Scythe to be called out. It wasn't a matter of bias, however. I have before me an anonymous note, the Highblade said, which accuses Honorable Scythe Goddard of malfeasance. A rumble throughout the room. A rumble throughout the room. A rumble throughout the room?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like that's... Never mind.
A rumble throughout the room.
A rumble throughout the room. My hand. Okay. Citra saw Scythe Goddard whisper to his inner circle of companions and stood. Of what sort of malfeasance am I being accused? Unnecessary cruelty in your gleaning. Yet this accusation comes anonymously, said Goddard. I cannot believe that a fellow Scythe would show such cowardice. I demand that the accuser reveal his or herself. More rumbles around the room. No one stood up. No one took responsibility. Well then, I refuse to answer an invisible accuser. Citra expected Highblades and Archites to press the issue. After all, an accusation from a fellow Scythe should be taken seriously. But the Highblade put the paper down and said, well, if there's nothing more, we'll take our mid-morning break. I'm hungry. And the Scythes, Earth's grand bringers of death, began to file out into the rotunda for donuts and coffee. Once they were in the rotunda, Faraday leaned close to Citra and Rowan and said, there was no anonymous accuser. I'm sure the Scythe Goddard accused himself. Why would he do that? Asked Citra. To take the steam out of his enemies. It's the oldest trick in the book. Now anyone who accuses him will be assumed to be the cowardly anonymous accuser. No one will go after him now.
No one will go after him now. I wasn't following along.
I got you.
What they were talking about. Where are we at? Jeremiah, where are we at?
I'm reading what they're saying. Bigger words than Sean.
What, that he uses bigger words than Sean?
Facts. What the heck? Look at this.
She's not capping.
Flacking, colon, circulation.
They're making They're trying to make fun of one of the kids in my first period, saying like he better not leave because he needs the free grade real bad.
Who? Which one? Gigi?
Sammy, Gigi.
Gigi? Hey, she just said that he said he was tired. He was like, yo, I need a good grade.
Uh-huh.
Yo, that man bad. A for effort, Sammy. Good game. Where we at, homie?
Capping. I hate that word.
No cap?
No cap. Homie.
Yo, the definition of that has changed. Someone before would be like, what up, boy? Capping, boy. It was like he was getting a lot of money, a lot of capital. No, you guys just changed that.
Capping.
Yo, you capping. Captastic. Okay, where we at? Alright, I know where we at.
Gary's here. He just can't type. Hey, GJ.
Rowan found himself less interested in the stagecraft and the parrying within the assembly room as he was in the things that went on outside of it. He was already getting a feeling for the Scythe and how it truly worked. The most important business did not occur within the bronze doors, but in the rotunda and dim alcoves of the building, of which there were many, probably for this exact purpose. What is a rotunda?
I picture it being...
What is a rotunda?
It's not like a big circle-y table with fancy people sitting around talking?
What is a rotunda? I'll send candy to whoever knows. You can't Google it.
I don't know. You know what it is?
No, I have no clue what a rotunda is.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. It's like, what are you picturing in your head as the rotunda?
A rotunda. I'm picturing like a big room with no roof.
A big room with no roof? I'm picturing like circle pillars around like a circle table thing.
Wakanda?
Fancy people are sitting.
No, rotunda.
Rotunda.
R-O-T-U-N-D-A.
Rotunda. Something round.
Rotunda. Yeah, I see you.
Wakanda. Who said Wakanda?
What? And you spelled
Sammy, you better not act
you
out
spelled
because
it.
you need this grade.
You spelled Wakanda wrong too.
Wakanda.
Come on, man. What woke?
Yeah, hardly
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
It's a round room. Thank you, Bug. You can't use Google. Wait, I don't even know.
A round building or room. Yeah.
Okay, Onion Suck. Good job, bro.
I picture it being round, but not that. I don't picture
What
it
is a
only
rotunda?
being a round room.
Man,
I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying the picture in my brain. Who's the one? Who is Onion?
Onion Suck? Who's sucking onions out here? That's what I want to know.
Josh. Okay. I trust Josh. Josh knows what a rotunda is.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll see you, bro.
Who said this is fun? Who are you? Miss
Night.
That?
Someone missed the night. Who is Josh Gar? Why y'all? What's that?
Josh Gar is Josh.
Josh Gar! Jizzy, why you? Never mind.
Mason. Oh,
okay.
Mason. You guys don't feel like this is a complete waste of your Saturday currently? Reading a book with your old teacher? Yes, it's a waste. Yes, but perhaps. Sean, it's a waste.
Yes, but perhaps.
No, Sean's just ready to find something else to bully me about. First, the grammar lessons. Then spilling coffee on me.
Throwing coffee on your teachers. You jelly done.
It stained my shirt. I can never wear it again. Where are we at? Because
You want me to read? I'm ready to read.
This is much more distracting for me to read opposed to us reading in class. Like, you know, in class, we don't stop. Maybe it's because I'm at home. I don't.
This is a long chapter, bro.
This is a long chapter.
Alright, almost done. I'll read the rest. You just sit back.
No.
I got you.
I'll read too.
The early morning conversations had been just small talk. But now as the day progressed, Rowan could see a number of Scythes congregating during break into small clashes, doing side deals, building alliances, pushing secret agendas. He overheard one group that was planning to propose a ban on remote detonators as a method of gleaning, not for any ethical reason, but because the gun lobby had made a sizable contribution to a particular Scythe. Another group was trying to groom one of the younger Scythes for a position on the selection committee, so that he might sway gleaning choices when they needed those choices swayed. Power politics might have been a thing of the past elsewhere, but it was alive and seething in the Scythedom. Their mentor did not join any of the plotters. Faraday remained solitary and above petty politics, as did perhaps half of the Scythes. We know the schemes of the schemers, he told Rowan, and Citra as he negotiated a jelly donut. They only get their way when the rest of us want them to. Rowan made a point to observe Scythe Goddard. Many Scythes approached him to talk. Others grumbled about him under their breath. His entourage of junior Scythe was a multicultural bunch, in the old school meaning of the word. While no one had pristine ethnogenetics anymore, his inner circle showed traits that leaned towards one ethnos or another. The girl in green seemed mildly Pan-Asian, the man in yellow had African leanings, the one in fiery orange was a Caucasoid, as could be, was as Caucasoid as can be, and he himself leaned slightly toward the Hispanic. He was clearly a Scythe who wanted high visibility. Even his grand gesture of ethnic balance was the visible one. Remember who he was like trying to say Whoopi Goddard? That white guy can't play him. He said he's Hispanic, so we need a Spanish dude. Antonio Banderas.
He's Goddard Spanish?
Yeah, Hispanic. You just said that.
Earlier when we were at coffee, we were trying to decide famous people that could act in the movie because they are making a movie of this, like currently, but they haven't released a cast or anything like that. So we were trying to pick what famous people could be who, and we were picturing Goddard as
that dude.
A black guy?
No, we were picturing him as the white guy from not House of Cards.
He said that Tiger would be Zac Efron.
Zac Efron!
We think Citra could be Zendaya.
Yes, sir.
We didn't have like a solid Rowan yet.
We had Tom Holland.
We said Tom Holland out of default because Spider-Man and Zendaya are already in a movie together, but like we didn't have a Rowan. Leonardo DiCaprio, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Who could he be?
For Goddard? Like a bad
Goddard?
Who said that Dwayne Johnson should be who?
Wrong. Dwayne Johnson never plays a bad guy.
Danny DeVito. Who's Danny DeVito?
Who said Danny DeVito?
Keanu Reeves.
You know, that's Faraday.
Faraday is Keanu Reeves.
Ooh, I like that. He's playing a tumbleweed in a new SpongeBob movie.
Danny DeVito is.
The short guy that's got really hairy. He's on Always Sunny.
Harley, I love The Rock too.
You seen Matilda? Matilda's dad, the car salesman.
Oh.
Yeah, I love The Rock, and he will not play bad guy. Okay.
Who's a good Rowan? I couldn't think of like anybody.
Think of young boys.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I got one. Y'all seen Percy Jackson? Percy Jackson, the guy that plays him.
I never seen Percy Jackson.
Oh my god, man! They seen Percy Jackson.
I'm in
Maze Runner. The dude who plays Maze Runner.
Oh, the Maze Runner boy.
Yeah, he could be a good Rowan.
I feel like PETA could be a good Rowan. PETA from the Hunger Games.
No, I hate his face. He's pale and shapely.
I feel like he could be a good Rowan.
He's not heroic enough. Yo, you got 20 viewers on this right now. Look at this.
I'm
holy moly
famous. Okay.
See, they know. I should be a caster.
A what?
A caster?
What's a caster?
That's wrong. Casting director. Dwayne Jesse as Rowan. Dwayne Jesse.
Who said, hold on, I have a good...
Peter ugly. Yo, you right.
Wow.
GG, dog. Peter look like he sweats all the time, man. It's weird.
I'm in danger that I have a good Rowan. I want to know who this good Rowan is because I don't have him. Look who up.
Who?
Who am I supposed to look up? Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito?
I know who Danny DeVito is now.
Stupid. I hate his face. There it is. Yeah, see, you get it. You talking about Peter, right?
Ashanti, I am famous now. I literally am going to quit my job and just stream reading.
Dwayne Jesse?
If you guys all subscribe, I'm never coming back to work. Just kidding. I love you guys.
Wait. Dwayne Jesse?
Dwayne Jesse? I'm going to look him up.
Is that the dude off of the show you watched with the hospital?
Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, what's that guy's name? Jesse something?
Oh, I just lost my page. Is Dwayne Jesse on Grey's Anatomy, y'all? Or is that not? Dwayne Jesse. Y'all agree Zendaya should be Citra?
Who the heck? Who is this?
Why do y'all know who Dwayne Jesse is?
What is this guy? The heck?
What?
Oldest day in the night.
Onion,
son. Who is that? Who
that's Josh Gar.
Shaquille O'Neal is Faraday. So y'all playing now. Rick Grimes.
No, that's Jesse Williams.
Okay. Got you. I heard Jesse. I ain't never seen Dwayne Jesse. And why he got a D-E in front of him?
I don't know who Rick Grimes is either.
That's from The Walking Dead.
I don't know anybody.
The main dude from The Walking Dead is Rick Grimes.
I know who that is.
Yeah, he's actually...
Y'all can't think of a Citra either, or y'all just think
that's me, boy. Picture, who said that?
Tom Brady is Rowan.
No, bro.
Tom Brady is Rowan. He's kind of old.
No, Tom Brady is a nobody. He's a cheater. Okay, we're not going to get into this right now.
I lost my page. I'm getting back focus. This might have all pinged loudly in Citra's reader, the high blade, the subject.
What you about to eat? Your mom loved Tom Cruise. Me is Rowan. Yep, there you go.
Who said me is Rowan?
Onion sucker.
Was Onion Josh? Josh could look like a Rowan, I guess. I don't have no problem with Tom Brady, but I know a lot of people hate him.
You don't have no problem with Tom Brady?
I don't.
He kisses his son on the mouth.
You're allowed to kiss your son on the mouth.
With Tom.
Rowan found himself. What page are we on, Jeremiah? I can't find it. Well, your pages are different. What's the last thing you read?
You have numbers? 139, 138, baby. Man.
What's the last thing you read? The words. Because my 138 is 2 pages.
Okay.
For the rest of the morning?
Okay. Call Jordan, slightly sprint.
What's the last thing you read?
Rowan was watching him for the rest of the morning.
For the rest of the morning, like I do.
What?
Who said who is Tom Brady? Tom Brady's a football player.
Ugly and smells. There you go.
There's so many names in here. I feel confused.
I like GG.
It's challenging. It's like hard. It's more confusing than like being in a group chat to me.
Okay, you keep up with that, and then I'll keep reading this so I don't talk. Okay.
For the rest of the morning, proposals were made and hotly debated in an assembly room. As Scythe Faraday had said, the schemers only prevailed when the more high-minded body of the Scythe allowed. The ban on remote detonators was adopted not because of bribes from the gun lobby, but because blowing up people was determined to be crude, cruel, and beneath the Scythedom. And the young Scythe put forth memberships on the selection committee was voted down because no one on that committee should be in anyone's pocket. I should like to be on the Scythe committee one day, Rowan said. Citra looked at him oddly. Why are you talking like this, Faraday? Rowan shrugged. When in Rome. We're not in Rome. If we were, we'd have a much cooler place for conclave. Local restaurants vied for the chance to cater the conclave, so lunch with the buffet was in the rotunda, even more sumptuous than the one at breakfast, and Faraday packed his plate, which was out of character for him. Don't think ill of him, Scythe Curie told Rowan and Citra. Her voice, I don't know how to say this word. Mellifluous?
Mellifluous.
Mellifluous. Yet sharp at the same time. For those of us who take our vow of austerity seriously, conclave is the only time we allow ourselves the luxury of fine food and drink. It reminds us that we're human. Citra, who had a one-track mind, took this as her opportunity to get information. When will the apprentices be tested, she asked. Scythe Curie smirked and brushed back her silky silver hair. The ones who were hoping to receive their ring today were tested last night. As for all others, you'll be tested soon enough, she said. Citra's frustration made Rowan snicker, which earned him a glare from Citra. Just shut up and stuff your face, she said. Rowan was happy to oblige. As focused as Citra was on her upcoming test, she began to wonder what in conclave she would miss when the apprentices were taken for testing. Like Rowan, she found conclave to be an education like none other. There were few people beyond Scythe and their apprentices who ever witnessed this, and those others who did caught only a glimpse, such as a string of salespeople after lunch who were each given 10 minutes to expound the virtues of some weapon or poison they were trying to sell at the Scythedom. And more importantly, the weapon master, who had the final decision over what the Scythedom purchased. They sounded like those awful people on an info holograms. It dices, it slices, but wait, there's more.
Slap chop. You don't know about that.
One salesperson was selling a digital poison that would turn the healing nanites in a person's bloodstream into hungry little bastards that would devour the victim from the inside out in less than a minute. He actually used the word victim, which immediately soured the Scythes. He was flatly dismissed by the weapon master. The most successful salesperson was offering a product called a touch of quietude, which sounded more like a feminine hygiene product than a death delivery system. The woman selling it displayed a small pill, but not to give the subject. The pill was for the Scythe. Take this with water. Within seconds, your fingers will secrete a transdermal poison. Anyone you touch for the next hour will be instantly and painlessly gleaned.
The weapon master was so impressed, he came up to the stage to take a dose. Then, in the ultimate demonstration, proceeded to glean the saleswoman. She sold 50 vials of the stuff to the Scythedom posthumously. What? I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the afternoon consisted of more discussion, arguments, and votes about policy. Scythe Faraday only found fit to voice his opinion once, when it came to forming an immunity committee. It seems clear to me that there should be oversight for the granting of immunity, just as the selection committee provides oversight for gleaning. Rowan and Scythe were pleased to see that his opinions carried a great deal of weight. Several Scythes who had initially voted against the forming of an immunity committee switched their vote. Yes. However, before a final tally was taken, Highblades and Socrates announced the time had run out for the legislative issues. The subject will be at the top of our agenda for the next conclave, he announced. A number of Scythes applauded, but several rose up and shouted their grievous discontent at the issue being tabled. Scythe Faraday did not voice his own displeasure. He took a long breath in and out. Interesting, was all he said.
This might have all pinged loudly on Rowan and Scythe's radar had the Highblade not immediately announced that the next order of business was the apprentices.
Scythe found herself wanting to grip Rowan's hand in anticipation and squeeze it until it was bloodless, but she restrained herself. Rowan, on the other hand, followed his mentor's lead. He took a deep breath in, then out, and tried to let his anxiety wash from him. He had studied all he could study, learned all he could learn. He would do the best he could do. If he failed today, there would be more than enough chances to redeem himself.
Good luck, Rowan said to Scythe. You two, she returned. Let's make Scythe Faraday proud.
Rowan smiled. Thought that Faraday might smile at Scythe as well, but he didn't. He just kept his gaze on Xenocrates. First, the candidates for the Scythedom were called up. There were 4 whose apprenticeship were now complete. Having had their final test the evening before, there was nothing left but to ordain them, or not, as the case may be. Word was there was a 5th candidate who had failed the final test last night. He or she wasn't even invited to the conclave. 3 rings were brought out, resting on red velvet pillows. The 4 looked to one another now, aware that even though they had passed their final test, one of them would not be ordained and would be sent home in shame. Not ordained, sent home in shame. Scythe Faraday turned to the Scythe beside him and said, "Only one Scythe gleaned himself since last conclave, and yet 3 are being confirmed today. Has the population grown so drastically in 3 months that we need 2 additional Scythes? 3 chosen apprentices were called one by Scythe Mandela, Nelson Mandela, who presided over the Bajillion Committee. As each knelt before him, he said something about each of them in turn, and then handed them their rings, which they slipped on their fingers and held to show the conclave, which responded for each of them with obligatory sound like Goofy's car running out. Applause. Then they announced their patron historic, the luminary from history whom they would name themselves after. The conclave applauded with each announcement, accepting Scythe Goodall, Jane Goodall, is that her name? She hung with the gorillas, Schrodinger, don't know that one, and Colbert into the Mid-American Scythedom. When the 3 had left the stage, the hot-tempered boy remained, just as Scythe Faraday had said earlier in the day. He stood alone after the applause died down. Then Scythe Mandela said, "Ransom Palladini." What a name. That boy's name is Ransom. That's cool. "We have chosen not to ordain you as a Scythe. Wherever life leads you, we wish you well. You are dismissed." Bah! He lingered for a few moments as if thinking it might be a joke or one final test. Then his lips pursed, his face turned red, and he strode quickly up the center aisle in silence, pushing through the heavy bronze doors, their hinges complaining at his exit. "How awful," said Scythe. "At least they could applaud him for trying." "There are no accolades for the unworthy," Faraday said. One of us will exit that way, Rowan pointed out to her. He resolved that if it was him, he would take his time going down the aisle. He'd make eye contact and nod to as many Scythes as he could on his way out. Were he to be ejected, he would leave that final conclave with dignity. "The remaining apprentices may now come forward," said Xenocrates. Rowan and Scythe rose, ready to face whatever the Scythedom had in store for them. Okay, that's it. "I do believe people still fear death, but only 1/100th as much as they used to. I say that because based on current quotas, a person's chance of being gleaned within the next 100 years is only 1%, which means the chance that a child born today will be gleaned now in their 5,000th year on Earth is only 50%. Of course, since we no longer count the years numerically, aside from children and adolescents, no one knows how old anyone is anymore. Sometimes not even themselves. These days, people roughly know within a decade or two of this writing. I can tell you that I am somewhere between 160 and 180 years old. Whoa! Although I don't enjoy looking my age like everyone else. I turn the corner on occasion to set my biological age back substantially. But like many Scythes, I don't set it back past the age of 40. Only Scythes that are actually young like to look young. To date, the oldest living human being is somewhere around 300, but only because we are still so close to the age of mortality. I wonder what life will be like a millennium from now when the average age will be nearer to 1,000. Will we all be Renaissance children, skilled at every art and science because we've had the time to master them, or boredom and slavish routine plague us even more than it does today, giving us less of a reason to live limitless lives? I dream of the former, but suspect the latter.
Do you guys like the gleaning journals, or do you feel like they're like extra and annoying because they sound like fancier? But why would they do that? They're gonna have to kill people. Yeah, who's the shadow person? I'm in danger, I agree. That doesn't answer your question. We don't know who shadow person is. Extra.
What shadow person?
Extra. More info. Who is that?
Tucamo.
Annoying. No cap. Gleaning occurs. Extra. So y'all like the story, but y'all don't be feeling like the actual gleaning journal.
Man, I like it when Thunderhead starts talking. Right? You don't like his?
Yeah, but they don't know yet. I don't tell them spoilers. He's a spoiler. You hear?
That's not a spoiler.
I feel like it's a spoiler.
So Thunderhead hasn't spoken in any of these?
Brown. No, the Thunderhead has not spoken. It's only been Curie. And did y'all think Curie was a boy or a girl? When I was reading your guys' prediction from your quiz yesterday, lots of y'all would say Curie something, and then y'all would say he. Like, as if you guys thought...
Olivia Gothey.
But y'all were saying Curie and he. Like, y'all thought Curie was a boy, and then today y'all found out it's a girl, not a boy.
Marie Curie.
Aaron? Who is Aaron?
Hey, Ron!
Yes, Josh, you thought Curie was a dude until just now? When I read it, I feel like I might have spoiled it because I would read Curie like a girl, and I knew she was a girl. I never read her with a dude voice. Read everything I said. Read everything I said. Okay, Josh, hold on, let me scroll up. Maybe the Thunderhead chooses to control nerves. Yes. I suspect that the Thunderhead originated nanites. Agree. I feel like the Thunderhead originated everything. It makes dying painless in many instances. Oh, people's nanites kicking in makes their death pain-free. Gleaning occurs so the population growth is under control. That is true also because they defeated death. So now they have to glean or the world would just be like swamping with people. Nanites release morphine, which numbs types of pain. That's also true. I agree. Yes. Read everything I said. Well, now I read everything you said. Aaron is Jacob A.A. Ron Parker. Jacoby. Jacoby or Jacoby? I feel like you probably Jacoby.
Who the heck named their kid Jacoby?
Well, his name is Jacob. So Jacoby, I don't know if he's saying Jacoby.
Jacoby. No, that's how you say it in Mr. Whatever. A.A. Ron.
A.A. Ron.
A.A. Ron and Jacoby.
Probably Jacoby. I don't
Jacoby.
think. Well, I don't know. It might be Jacoby.
Do you know where A.A. Ron comes from?
A.A. Ron? I thought it was just Aaron, but spaced out. A.A. Ron. Like Aaron.
Key and Peele, man.
Yes, I'm right. It's Jacoby? Or...
Jacoby.
Key and Peele. What's Key and Peele?
Mr. Snowden.
Your face was so close to the camera. Someone get Miss Snowden. What's wrong?
You don't know?
You guys know who Jacoby is? Are y'all not talking about Jacoby?
We're talking about Key and Peele.
Key and Peele? I don't know what Key and Peele is.
You ain't never seen the skit where he's like, I come from the inner city.
Let me Google.
The inner city. Y'all better not be playing with me in here. And he calling the kids by their wrong name. He was like, it's a skit. And he's like, what's it? It was
I don't even know what Key and Peele is.
Jacoby, exactly. Jacoby.
TNT. Jacoby.
Boof your thumb.
Jacoby. Boof your thumb. Yeah, I'm looking at the Key and Peele picture on Google right now. Never heard of it, never seen it, don't know nothing about it.
A show connotated by comedy. They basically stole Dave Chappelle's whole thing. It's funny. This is it right there. Look, substitute teacher. He in there calling all their names.
Oh, I've probably seen this. He says all their names incorrectly.
Yes. Jaqueline. She's like, Jacqueline?
I taught school for 20 years.
I have seen this.
So don't even think about messing with me. Y'all feel me? Okay, let's take a roll here.
Jaqueline?
Jaqueline. Where's Jaqueline at? No Jaqueline here?
Oh yeah, this is gonna curse on this.
Yeah.
Y'all trying to make me pull cussing up on my stream? No, I don't. Chapter 14. A slight stipulation. Rowan stepped. This is the for real good chapter. The last one was build up. This is when stuff happened. This is when they finally get their test. And when you find out if they pass or fail their test. Rowan stepped on Citra's toes, and it's shorter than the last chapter. Rowan stepped on Citra's toes on his way into the aisle. She grunted slightly, but didn't wisecrack about it. That was because Citra was too busy going over her weapons and poisons in her head. Rowan's clumsiness was the least of her concerns. She thought they would be led into a room elsewhere in the building, a quiet place for their exam. But other apprentices who had been to Conclave before were heading down the aisle toward the open space in front of the rostrum. They lined up in what seemed like no particular order, facing the Conclave like a chorus line, so Citra joined the line next to Rowan. "What's this?" she whispered. "Not sure," he whispered back. There were 8 in total. Some stood with hard expressions, in control of their emotions, and others were trying not to look terrified. Citra wasn't sure what image she projected, and found herself annoyed that Rowan looked as casual as if he were waiting for a bus. "Honorable Scythe Curie will be the examiner today," Xenocrates said. A hush fell over the chamber as Scythe Curie, the grand dame of death, came forward. She walked down a line of apprentices twice, sizing them up, and then she said, "Each of you will be asked one question. You will have the opportunity to give an acceptable answer." One question? What kind of exam could possibly consist of one question? How could they test anyone's knowledge that way? Citra's heart beat so violently, she imagined it bursting out of her chest, and then she would find herself waking up in a revival center tomorrow, a laughingstock. Scythe Curie began at the left end of the line. It meant Citra would be fourth to be questioned. "Zachary Zimmerman," Scythe Curie said to the gangly boy on the end.
Jacory?
Jacory? What did I say, Zachary?
Zachary Zimmerman.
I'm assuming you guys probably aren't following along. Even though some of you guys have the books. His name is Jacory. Jacory. And I just said, Zachary Zimmerman. I don't know. Zachary, Jacory, Jacoby. Jacory Zimmerman. Scythe Curie said to the gangly boy on the end. "A woman hurls herself on your blade, offering herself as sacrifice to prevent you from gleaning her child, and dies. What do you do?" The boy hesitated for just an instant and then said, "By resisting the gleaning, she has violated the 3rd commandment. I therefore am obliged. Obligated. See, it looks like obligated, but it's not.
Obliged.
Obliged to glean the rest of her family." Scythe Curie was silent for a moment, then said, "Not an acceptable answer. But, said Jacory. She resisted. The rule says if one resists one's own gleaning. Were she the chosen one, the 3rd commandment would most certainly apply, but if we are unsure, we are obliged to err on the side of compassion. In this case, you would glean the child and arrange for the woman to be brought to a revival center, granting her a year of immunity along with the rest of the family." And then she gestured towards the assembly. "Step down. Your sponsoring Scythe will choose your punishment." Citra swallowed. Shouldn't the punishment for failure be the awful knowledge of that failure? What sorts of punishments did the Scythes devise for their disgraced disciples? Scythe Curie moved to a strong-looking girl with high cheekbones on her face that looked like it could weather a hurricane. Claudette Catalino, Scythe Curie said, you have made a mistake in your poison. That would never happen, Claudette said. Do not interrupt me. But your premises is flawed, Honorable Scythe Curie. I know my poisons well. I can never make a mistake. Ever. Well, said Scythe Curie with deadpan irony, how proud your sponsoring Scythe must be to have the perfect pupil in human history. It brought forth a smattering of chuckles from the room. All right, then, continued Scythe Curie, let's say that someone irritated by your arrogance has sabotaged your poisons. Your subject, a man who offered you no resistance, begins to convulse, and it appears that his end will be slow and likely filled with much more pain than his nanites can suppress. What do you do? And without hesitation, Claudette said, I draw the pistol that I always keep for emergencies, and I end the subject's suffering with a single well-placed bullet. But first, I would order any family members to leave the room, sparing them the trauma of witnessing a ballistic bleeding. Scythe Curie raised her eyebrows, considering the response, and said, acceptable. And thinking of the family is a nice touch, even in a hypothetical. And then she grinned. I am disappointed I couldn't prove you wrong. Prove you imperfect is actually what it says. Go ahead, Jeremiah. I'm running out of breath. Next was a boy, whose gaze was fixed on a spot on the back wall, clearly trying to find his happy place.
Nose Barsky, said Curie. Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. His voice quivered. Citra wondered what sort of response that might evoke from Curie. What sort of question might she ask a boy so frightened? Name for me 5 species that generate neurotoxins powerful enough to be effective on a poison-tipped dart. The boy, who had been holding his breath, exhaled with a loud relief. Well, Phylobates, Aurotania, of course, better known as the poison dart frog, he said, the blue-ringed octopus, the marbled cone snail, the inland taipan snake, and the death-stalker scorpion. Excellent, Scythe Curie said. Can you name any more? Yes, Noah told her, but you said 1 question. And what if I tell you I've changed my mind and I want 6 instead of 5? Noah took a deep breath, but didn't hold it. Then I would tell you in the most respectful way that you're not honoring your word, and the Scythe is duty-bound to honor their word. Scythe Curie smiled. Acceptable answer. Very good. And then she moved on to Citra. Citra Terra Nova.
Question, right quick. Do you guys think Citra is going to pass? Rowan's going to pass? They're both going to pass? They're both going to fail? Because they're about to tell us who passes and who don't. Don't spoil it. Both pass. Both might pass. If one fails, who do you feel like fails? Citra what? Citra gonna pass or Citra gonna fail? Olivia. Oh, Ashanti, you read ahead?
Yeah.
Don't spoil nothing, Ashanti.
You didn't see it.
Ooh, she spoiled something already?
No, she read ahead.
Oh.
She told us something. She told Savannah already, though.
Don't spoil it, Ashanti. I'll give you a 0 instead of 100.
Ashanti.
One's gonna fail, but they're gonna say both or neither. Citra pass. Rowan's more devoted.
Is he?
Although Citra has a higher chance. Citra.
Rowan. Plot twist.
Plot twist, Rowan's gonna pass. Okay, Emma. Y'all think Josh said Rowan's more devoted?
But mostly Rowan.
I guess we did just read that chapter that he said he didn't used to be into school.
Quirk reader.
And now he is. Emma is out here.
Plot twist.
I thought Emma was going to eat lunch. You back, Emma?
What you eat? What you eat, girl? I'm hungry.
You know it. Where'd you stop just now?
She eat fast.
It sounds like most of y'all think both of them are going to pass. Citra's going to pass.
Alright. She had realized the Scythe knew everyone's name, and yet it came as a shock to hear her say it. Yes, Honorable Scythe Curie. The woman leaned in close, peering deeply into Citra's eyes. What is the worst thing you've ever done? Citra was prepared for just about any question but that one. Excuse me? It's a simple question, dear. What is the worst thing you've ever done? Citra's jaw clenched. Her mouth went dry. She knew the answer. She didn't even have to think about it. Can I have a moment? Take your turn. Then some random Scythe in the audience heckled. She's done so many terrible things. She's having trouble selecting one. He hated them all. Citra held eye contact with Scythe Curie. those all-seeing gray eyes. She knew she couldn't back away from the question. When I was 8, she began, I tripped a girl down the stairs. She broke her neck and had to spend 3 days in a revival center. I never told her that it was me. That's the worst thing I ever did.
Scythe Curie nodded and offered a sympathetic grin and then said, You're lying, dear. She turned to the crowd, shaking her head, perhaps a little bit sadly. Unacceptable answer. And then she turned back to Citra. Step down. Scythe Faraday will choose your punishment. She didn't argue. She didn't insist that she was telling the truth, because she wasn't. She had no idea how Scythe Curie knew. Citra went back to her place, unable to look at Scythe Faraday, and he said nothing to her. And then Scythe Curie moved on to Rowan, who seemed so smug, Citra just wanted to hit him. Rowan Demish, Scythe Curie asked, what do you fear? What do you fear above all else? Rowan did not hesitate in his response. He shrugged and said,
I don't fear anything.
Citra wasn't sure she had heard right. Did he say he didn't fear anything? Had he lost his mind? Perhaps you want to take some time before answering, Scythe Curie prompted. But Rowan just shook his head.
I don't need any more time. That's my answer. Not going to change it.
Absolute silence in her room. Citra found herself involuntarily shaking her head, and then she realized he was doing this for her. So she wouldn't have to suffer alone through whatever punishment was in store. So she wouldn't feel like she had fallen behind. Although she still wanted to smack him, now it was for an entirely different reason. So, Scythe Curie said, today we have one perfect apprentice and one fearless one. But I'm afraid that no one is entirely fearless, so your answer, as I'm sure you must know, is unacceptable. She waited, perhaps thinking Rowan might try to respond to that, but he did not. He just waited for her to say, step down. Scythe Faraday will choose your punishment. Rowan returned to his place next to Citra, as nonchalant as can be. You're an idiot. He gave the same shrug he gave to Scythe Curie.
That's it.
You think I don't know why you did that?
Maybe I did it so I'll look better at the next conclave. Maybe if I gave too good an answer today, my next question would be harder.
Do you guys feel like Rowan reads like that? Rowan does not read like that. Sound like that.
Oh, he's definitely got an accent.
But Citra knew it was false. Faulty logic. Rowan didn't think that way. And then Scythe Faraday spoke up, his voice quiet and measured, but somehow carrying an intensity that was chilling. You shouldn't have done that. I'll accept whatever punishment you see fit, Rowan said. It's not about the punishment, he snapped. But now Scythe Curie had questioned a few more apprentices. One was sent to sit, 2 others stayed. Maybe Scythe Curie will see what I did as noble, Rowan suggested. Yes, and so will everyone else. Motives can easily be beaten into weapons.
Hey.
Which proves, Citra said to Rowan, that you are an idiot. But he only grinned idiotically. She thought she had the last word on the matter, and that it was over until they returned home, where no doubt Scythe Faraday would inflict some annoying but fair punishment as they fit the crime. She was mistaken. After the apprentices were done being traumatized, the focus... I'm sorry, I lost my spot because he's tapping me as I'm reading.
I'm just saying, they say you got an accent. I'm just saying.
I'm not reading about that right now. We're not talking about that right now. So fail you all. You think Rowan has an accent. I lost my spot.
Okay.
After the apprentices were done being traumatized, there's like 2 pages left and we're done. After the apprentices were done being traumatized, the focus of the Scythe began to wear down. There was now a constant murmur as Scythe discussed dinner plans as the hour approached 7. The remaining business was of little interest to anyone. Issues of building maintenance and whether or not Scythe should be required to announce the turning of a corner so it wasn't shocking when they looked years younger at the next conclave. It was as if things were wrapping up, and then one Scythe stood up and loudly addressed Xenocrates. She was the one dressed in green with emeralds embroidered into her robe, one of Scythe Goddard's bunch. "Excuse me, Your Excellency," she began, although clearly she was speaking to the entire assembly, not just the Highblade. "I'm finding myself troubled by the set of new apprentices, more specifically the apprentices taken on by the Honorable Scythe Faraday." Both Citra and Rowan looked up. Faraday did not. He seemed frozen, looking downward, almost in mediation. or perhaps steeling himself for what was to come. To the best of my knowledge, a Scythe has never taken on 2 apprentices and set them in competition for the ring, she continued. Xenocrates looked over to the parliamentarian, who had jurisdiction over such matters. There's no law against it, Scythe ran, said the parliamentarian. Yes, but clearly the competition is turned into camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie. I said camaraderie.
You said camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
I'm sorry.
How will we ever know which is the better candidate if they continue to aid each other? Your complaint is duly noted, said Xenocrates, but Scythe Rand was not done. I propose that to ensure this competition is truly a competition, we add a slight stipulation. Scythe Faraday rose to his feet as he launched from his chair. I object! This conclave cannot stipulate how I train my apprentices. It is my sole right to teach them, train them, and discipline them. Do you think you can beguile this conclave with your babbles and vanity? We are not so base as to be dazzled by shiny things. What is your proposal, Scythe Rand? Asked Xenocrates. I object! Shouted Faraday. You can't object to something that has not yet been said. Faraday bit down his objection and waited. Citra watched, feeling almost detached, as if this were a tennis match and it was match point. But she wasn't an observer, was she? She was the ball, and so was Rowan. I propose, said Scythe Rand, with the slickness of a death-stalker scorpion, that upon the confirmation of the winner, the first order of business will be for that winner to glean the loser. Gasps and grumbles from around the room, and Citra couldn't believe it. Some laughter and affirmations as well. She wanted to believe the woman in the green could not be serious, that this was yet another level of the test. Faraday was so beside himself he said nothing at first. He couldn't even find the words to object. Finally, he thundered his fury, like a force of nature, a wave pounding at the shore. This flies in the face of everything we are, everything we do. We are the business of gleaning. But you, Scythe Goddard, and all of his disciples, you would turn this into a blood sport. Nonsense, said Rand. It makes perfect sense. The threat of gleaning will ensure the best applicant comes out on top. And then, rather than striking down as ridiculous to Citra's honor, Xenocrates turned to the parliamentarian. Is there a rule against this? The parliamentarian considered and said, since there's no precedent for the treatment of a double apprenticeship, there is also no rules for how it should be dealt with. The proposal is within our guidelines. Guidelines? Guidelines? The moral fabric of the Scythedom should be our guidelines. To even consider this is barbaric. Oh, please, said Xenocrates with an exaggerated sweep of his hands. Spare us the melodrama, Faraday. This, after all, is the consequence of your decision to take 2 apprentices when 1 would have been sufficient. And the clock began to strike 7 o'clock. I demand a full debate and vote on this, Scythe Faraday pleaded. But the 3 bells had already rung, and Xenocrates ignored him. As it is my prerogative as Highblade, I so stipulate that in the matter of Rowan Demish and Citra Terranova, whomsoever shall prevail will be required to glean the other upon receiving his or her ring. And then he banged his gavel heavily on the rostrum, adjourning conclave and sealing their fate. Dun, dun, dun. How much longer do we have? What chapter are we stopping on? We're done right now. The code word for you to get your points that you have to write down and give to me on Monday is whatever word you pick. You pick a word for your code word. So it's not me giving you a code word. It's just you picking a code word. Whatever code word you want. But I have snitches that will tell me if you give somebody else a code word who really didn't watch this, and then I'll know. So you pick your code word, whatever code word you want to pick. Any code word. And then we done. And I guess on Monday you can either like read 15 when everybody else is reading 13 and 14. Or you could just do week work or something. Bruh, Sammy. See, Sam, you could have just turned it in this whole time and put like potato as your code word, and I would have assumed that you stayed the whole time. What am I supposed to do with a code word? You pick a code word. You pick whatever you want. Can you give it to me Thursday? Give it to your brother, and your brother can give it to me because he's getting your book number 24 for you. So just give it to him, And when he gives me this, I'll trade it with him for your book, Reed Woods. Can you all have different ones? Yeah, you're all going to have different ones because everybody's just picking their own code word. I don't care what you put for the code word, as long as it's like a code word, one word, all different words. Sound good? Okay, sounds good, Reed. Later, adios, muchachos. Do me a favor, if I haven't seen your name in here, please tell me your name one more time. Like I know Onions is Sammy, Harley said Harley. Josh, do you have that booklet that I brought in Miss Kendall's class that was like the chapters in words? There's a line on the front cover that says code word. You can put it right there. If you don't have it, just write it on a piece of paper. Shanti, give it to me Tuesday or Wednesday then. I hope your appointment goes good. Olivia Gothi is your code name? You can't find it. Yeah, Reed, I knew you were all Woods. Gavin, hey Gavin, I didn't know you were here. Lauren, you're welcome. Liliana and DJ, hello, and Jaden. The Google survey, I'm about to post it. My computer I was using as a book, so I couldn't post it yet, but I'm going to get on and post it on Google Classroom for you guys right now. Emma, okay, Harley. So I should have everybody's name. I'm going to have to like scroll through this chat to find it all. Cool. I don't know how to end this stream. What do I do?
Chat
I guess I probably can't do it from this phone.
Yes, you can.
This is the first time I've ever streamed. It's very odd. I feel very old.
Yes, you can.
I don't know how to stop this. Is it acceptable to start wearing Christmas clothes on Monday, do you guys think? Wakanda is my code word. How do I stop this, children? Tell me things. Mute microphone, show chat, share stream, lock screen. And, bye.
Yeah.